definition alone, they're inferior films. Films.
Sequels suck. Sequels suck. Sequels suck.
Back, movie fans. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. It's the end of the year. We were desperate to try and get some Christmas sequels out to this year. Cable and I are busy. I'm sorry, we're busy boys. We had a lot on. We couldn't quite get it together. What we could do that we really want to for you guys before we ring in 2025 is just a super quick recap of what we thought were our top 5 best sequels for us for the year. We haven't shared this with each other before we started recording because I'm just as keen to find out Cables as you guys are. Some of these are films we've had a chance to talk about on the show. Some aren't. There's a lot of movies that come out every year in addition to the old ones. So we've been trying to mix it up this year, give you the old, give you the new, but some really good stuff came out this year. I think I saw about 19 sequels. How many did you see this
I
year,
think
Cable?
I've got 15 in the can, yeah. And like I said, there's definitely a few that I would have loved to have got to see firstly and or spoken to you on the podcast about, but we just, time, it's a thing.
There's too many. There's too gosh darn many. How did you go putting together a top 5? Like I have sort of a running list for my year that's, kind of tells me how I feel about the movies I saw in the order I enjoyed them. So my top 10 is pretty laid out for me as the year goes on. But as I was trying to arrange like my top 5 sequels, it didn't quite sync up the same way as I thought it would. It wasn't as easy as I thought it would. How did you go with it?
Yeah, it wasn't an easy task. If I've seen 15, I've got to only pick 5, and I think there was some entertainment in those 15 and trying to rank them. And I sort of, the way I looked at it was like, what do I want to go back to watch sort of almost immediately, have a look at it again, see it again. So that's kind of how I looked at it, and was I happy walking away from that film as well.
A couple of honorable mentions that I want to throw in that aren't going to make my list. They might pop up in yours, but just films that I enjoyed that when I was putting the list together, I was like, you weren't quite it. Inside Out 2 surprised me this year as like one that I really, really enjoyed. I always kind of forget that Pixar are pretty darn good at making movies and often pretty darn good at making sequels. If you look at their sort of catalog of films, they have more good sequels than bad, I think, which is rare for most studios. Also wanted to shout out one that we did get to talk about on the show, which didn't make my list, but it has stuck with me a bit. Gladiator 2. I don't know why. It's just rattling around in my head. Maybe not for the right reasons, but it won't go away. And A Quiet Place Day One. That's another one that really kind of caught me by surprise. We're big Quiet Place fans on this show. And
we haven't got to talk about it. Yeah,
we have not got to talk about Quiet Place Day One, which is a shame because it is a very interesting movie. They took a really interesting. I didn't know how they would make a prequel. I was kind of not interested in the idea of when the aliens land, but the story that they chose to tell, I think was real good. So if you haven't seen it, if you're on the fence, that's my short list. Is there any honorable mentions for you before we get into
I'm just quickly flicking through the list, and there's a lot of sequels that I feel like, I had it in there. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm a Planet of the Apes fan, so for me there's probably a little bit of bias. I really enjoyed it. Could have been better. Again, it's one I have to check out again for sure. But I liked a lot of what I saw. So, and again, the CGI and just the animation they're doing now is just crazy, out of control. Like, it's just seamless. And that's one of mine that didn't make that top sort of 5. And I'm just thinking about even Deadpool and Wolverine. I probably wasn't super high when we talked about it, but it's definitely one I do want to check out again. But sadly, I don't think it's for Ryan Reynolds and Wolverine or Hugh Jackman per se. It's more just Blade and Gambit and Elektra and just the cameos again and just the other little bits and pieces I may have missed.
It is one that I kind of want to check out on streaming, but just maybe skip to a few scenes. Like I want to watch that opening scene again.
Yeah.
I want to skip ahead, maybe some stuff in the No Man's Land with all the extra characters. But yeah, I don't know. That's one that I thought would easily be my top five, and when I made the list, I was like, oh no, it wasn't even like a debate for me, which is odd because I did enjoy the movie. All right, well, should we get into it? Should we get into some top fives for the folks?
Absolutely.
All right, do you want me to kick it off?
Go for it.
All right,
Number
five.
five.
Number five. With a bullet for me is one we did get to talk about on this show. It's probably one of my favorite episodes we've ever done on this show. Honestly, it went pretty wild, but in ways that I really enjoyed.
Oh,
Number five, with a bullet for me is a film we got to talk about on this show. Probably one of my favorite episodes we've ever done on the show. Went a little bit off the rails, but in a way I really enjoyed. It's Joker: Folie à Deux. A movie I honestly haven't stopped thinking about, haven't stopped talking to people about. Probably one of the most divisive movies of the year, just across the board. And I was so taken with it, and really keep thinking about it all the time. And the more I think about it, the happier I am it exists. Definitely a huge recommendation for me from this year to anyone who hasn't seen it yet.
so my number five is something that's really surprising to me. When I was going through the list of all the movies I've seen that are sequels this year, this one did surprise me because I went in with low expectations, but I was like, I really enjoyed seeing these characters again and going back to that world, even though some of it was ridiculously outlandish, but it was a lot of fun. And that was Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Wow.
Yes, I was not expecting it, but yeah, I was really happy and it was fun going back there.
Number four for me. Number four is one I only saw last week, and rocketed up the list. I avoided this film quite deliberately because I thought the first one was just fine. It was just fine. I had no interest in another one whatsoever, and I saw the sequel, and I was so annoyed I didn't see it in a cinema because it deserves to be seen on a big screen. Smile 2 is my number four for the year. What a kick-ass movie. I don't know if you've seen it. We haven't had a chance to talk about it on the show or anywhere else, but I loved it. I thought it was incredible. Some of the scenes, if anyone has seen it, I don't want to spoil anything, but Backup Dancer, those scenes blew me away. I was captivated. I was stunned. I watched it with someone who also didn't enjoy the first one, and the whole movie we both just kept looking at each other being like, what the hell? Seriously? How is this so good? Really, really loved it. So definitely check out Smile 2. That's my number four.
So my number four is one that we've talked about, and again, it's one that I've sort of gone and had to order it, and really want to watch it. I'm actually keen to just chuck the disc on tonight, and that's Alien Romulus. It's definitely got its flaws we talked about in our episode, but yeah, I just want to see those characters again. And when I say those characters, there's pretty much only two that really matter in this film. So
Yes.
those two actors just knock it out of the park, I think, and it's a good, fun take on the Alien, I guess, universe, and we're getting more of it soon on Disney Plus. I think Alien Earth is sort of
Coming
dropping
fast.
pretty soon. Yeah.
Number three for me is a prequel. Another one that I really had no sort of buzz going on about it, had no radar for it, watched it, and was in love. It was in my top five of the movies for most of the year. The First Omen. What a friggin' great movie. If you've never seen any of the Omen movies, it doesn't matter. It's probably kind of better, honestly. This movie only connects to the original Omen films almost by force in like the last 10 minutes. It kind of has to by studio law, but the rest of the movie is its own thing and blew me away. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted. This director is one to watch. Incredible film. Just as a movie, not as a prequel or a sequel or anything, just as a film to watch. Oh, chef's kiss. Check it. I'm pretty sure it's streaming on Disney Plus, which is a weird place to watch freaky horror movies, but big recommend for First Omen as my number three for the year.
My number three is another one we unfortunately haven't talked about. I haven't got to. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts, but it's a sequel. It's the third in, I guess, the trilogy of films. It's slasher. It's set in the 80s, so it's very 80s. And it's called Maxine. Or Max with XXX. Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. It's definitely different. It's definitely not everyone's cup of tea, but I really enjoyed it. And I guess the nostalgia of it just being set in the 80s even feeling like it was almost shot in the 80s. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I we haven't talked about this one. I enjoyed it. It's not as high on my list as it is for you. I definitely enjoyed it, but Ty West is a
Mm.
freaking amazing director, and I cannot wait to see what else he does because everything he does, even if it's not something I love, it's something I really enjoy watching because he has such a good eye. Number two for me is probably I say it was my most anticipated movie of the year going into the start of this year. And well, I was going to say it didn't disappoint. There was one very specific moment where it disappointed me greatly, but the rest of it I loved very, very deeply. It's Twisters, of course. It's Twisters.
Twisters.
Not
Yeah.
my first tornado, baby. Not my first tornado. Glen Powell forever. This movie was so fun. It was even though I went and watched it at the cinema at a mums and bubs session, so the lights weren't on and the sound was down. It was still amazing. What a ride! Like this is why we have
Yeah.
cinemas. This is why you
Yeah.
build cinemas.
Yeah.
Freaking movie stars and action and giant shit getting blown up by other giant shit. Give me 15 Twister movies. I love it. Maybe bring Helen Hunt back next one. But yeah, so good.
Well, my number two is a movie you actually mentioned just before, and that's Inside Out 2.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
great! I'm
yeah.
glad this is on your list.
Yeah, so it was one that again I like Inside Out. I like the idea of it, and sort of obviously got dragged along by some kids to go see the second one that they were hankering to see, and yeah, I definitely wasn't disappointed. I was kind of like, sometimes these sort of more kid movies, it's like when they churn out these sequels, but I really think they really added to the story so much and added some new characters and I guess another wrinkle to the whole experience that the characters going through. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it was probably, is it still the biggest movie of this year? It's almost,
It might
yeah.
be, yeah.
It was there for a while, yeah.
I mean, I saw it at the cinemas once, but my daughter saw it at the cinemas 4 times
Wow.
with different like family members and friend groups because everybody just wanted to see it, and
Yeah.
people who had seen it be like, "I'll go again. I don't give a shit."
Mm.
Like such a popular movie, and hits hard. Like you've got a daughter, I've got a daughter. I saw the first one when my daughter was like a little infant and she was on my lap, and I cried because like, oh, you're gonna grow up and have emotions. And then I saw the second one with my daughter who's now 10, and I'm like, oh my god, you're gonna be a teenager soon. You're gonna have more emotions. And
Yes.
so yeah, it really, really such a great film. I'm really, really glad it's on your list. Probably should have been on mine in hindsight, honestly, but there's just so many good films. Number one is one that we didn't get to talk about in the show, and I feel pretty confident saying we will never get to talk about in the show based on your one word response to me talking about it. My favorite sequel, prequel, or remake is a prequel, and it is Wicked. I love this. I love this movie so much. I love the musical, so I was already pretty biased. And I also, speaking of daughters, it's my daughter's favorite thing in the world. So we went to see the stage musical together, and then we went to see the movie together in a packed cinema at the Sun Theatre in Yarraville, which is just a beautiful cinema. And it was a perfect environment to watch it. And maybe in the arc of time, this movie might not have rated so high, but the experience I had watching it and the joy that I got from watching it has not been beat for almost any movie. In fact, it's my third favorite movie of the year overall, and it's definitely my favorite sequel, prequel, remake. And talking about Twisters is why cinemas are made. Like this film uses every inch of the screen and every decibel of the sound to give you a show, and it's beautiful. It's great. I adored it. Really, really recommend it.
My number one is a movie that you've already mentioned, is Smile 2. Yeah, I love Smile 2.
I can't believe we haven't talked about this at all yet.
Well, I wanted to, and I blame you. And
fair enough. I did only see it last week.
no,
I can't.
Yes, exactly.
Tell
So for me, I don't want to say too much if we hopefully talk about it relatively soon.
Oh man, well,
but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I personally, after I really enjoyed the first one, I understand where the story can go for the second one, but I was kind of like, I don't know what they're going to do with this. And it can very easily, we know sequels can go off the tracks in the wrong hands, but I really think their choices were really solid for this one, and let's just say the lead just knocks it out of the park.
Who the whole movie, I was like, I've never seen you before in my life. And then afterwards looked it up, and she played Jasmine in the live action remake of Aladdin. And is incredible. She should be one of the most famous people working in Hollywood right now, because she is so fucking good in this movie.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm delighted at your list. And
there you go.
So big year for sequels, big summer of sequels coming up, big year of sequels next year. I'm excited for what next year will bring. Sounds like Smile 2 is on the docket now, because we're both pretty friggin' high on that movie, and haven't had a chance to chat about it. And Under Siege 2 is coming by hook or by crook. But there's 9 movies that you guys can go and check out if you haven't seen. Although I don't know why you would have gotten this far in the year and be listening to a sequels podcast and not seen one of those movies. That would be stunning. But let us know what your favorites were. Hit us up in the comments. Shoot us a list of your own. Tell us what we missed. Tell us what we should have talked about and we didn't. Tell us what you're most looking forward to next year. There are so many sequels.
My God. Too many.
It's kind of overwhelming.
Do you know what's crazy? I reckon we said that 2 years ago, that there was so many sequels coming out, and it's just, I feel like there's more and more and more and more.
Yeah, the train is really going crazy. Marvel is back next year. We got no Marvel movies this year apart from Deadpool Wolverine, which I guess is kind of Marvel. But Marvel's back with a force with, I think, the Thunderbolts, Captain America 4, something else, I think just got announced. There's a new, there's a Spider-Man cartoon they're doing. There's a lot of stuff. But check it out and check us out. We'll be back in the new year talking about all kinds of sequels, prequels, remakes, everything but the original. Like and subscribe, and have a happy new year.
Yes, have a happy new year. Everyone stay safe out there. Like Angus said, like, subscribe. Just tell us, is there a sequel you really want to hear us talk about? And we'll have a look, definitely have a look at it, or it might be on our list of things that we've got to do. And
and if you're worried about next year for any reason, remember next year is it's a sequel to this year, and as we always say, no sequels suck.
That's right.
Happy New Year, friends.
Cheers.
Hey, Sequel Suck fans.
My definition alone, there are fewer films.
I almost sequel remake. Quick warning.
Sequel suck.
This episode is spoilers before the movie. Over. It's the crazy.